So one request I've been getting here at the channel for the last 3 or 4 months is to highlight a blue screen build, and you've heard me say in previous videos, I say, you know what, you're going to see it next week. I got you, my friends, don't worry, I'm going to put that build together, and this never happens because I just don't have time. However, I'm happy to say that I'm finally bringing you a build based around this weapon and gear set, and I want to remind you that this is just a template. You know, when you have negotiators, the blue screen, there are so many different ways you can run with a build like this. The most important thing is to truly take your time and make a build your own. I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the video. Now, as always, we're going to jump right into the build breakdown, and if you happen to enjoy this, do me a favor and hit that like button. It truly helps the channel out, and if you want to stay up to speed on all things Division, feel free to hit that subscribe or join button as well. Now, as far as the specialization is concerned, for this version of the build I'm using Gunner. I'm doing that to get that extra armor on kill, reload speed increase, rate of fire increase. You're also going to get some extra weapon handling when you are still for 1 second. And always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. And the reason I mention that in every build video I post is because I hear from so many players out there who forget to do that, and then you're leaving weapon damage on the table, and that just sucks, you know? You've heard me say that in so many videos. Please make sure you activate the right weapons. Now, as far as my primary is concerned, needless to say, it is the blue screen. And for those of you out there who may not have this weapon, it is in the general loot pool. I recommend hitting up countdown, set your targeted loot to LMG. Wish you nothing but the best of luck. Now, the reason this is so effective is because of its talent, Disruptor Rounds. And with that talent, shooting an enemy marks that enemy and adds a stack to the agent up to a count of 50. Shooting a marked enemy refreshes the mark and adds stacks to the agent. When you deploy a non-shield skill, remove all stacks on agent and all marked targets trigger an effect. You can see the breakdown are as follows. You know, the different stacks are going to trigger different effects. And you can also see at the very bottom, this effect will trigger immediately if any marked enemy is killed. So there is a bit of a learning curve with this weapon, but I'm telling you, my friends, once you get it down, it is absolutely lights out. And even as you're learning, you will definitely notice how effective this weapon is when it comes to crowd control. Whether you're playing solo or in a group, you're just going to be ripping through enemies left and right. The weapon is so much damn fun to use. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 4 Negotiators, 1 Petrov, and the Coyote's Mask, which is what we're starting with. Now, as you've heard me mention in previous videos, this is a must-have exotic for every player out there. The reason for that is because of its talent pack instincts. And with that talent, you and all your allies are going to get a crit hit chance and or crit hit damage bonus based on the distance of the last enemy you hit. You can see the breakdown is as follows. So when you're running in a group and 3 people have this mask, all 3 can be running at the same time. It is absolutely insane, my fellow agents. Now moving on to the body armor, it's the 1 piece of Petrov. We're running that so we get that extra 10% LMG damage bonus. And one thing I'd like to point out really quick is you'll notice that top attribute headshot damage. I don't really need that for this build. I would much rather that be crit hit chance, but this is the best one I have, so I'm using it in the meantime until I get the version I'm looking for. As far as the talent is concerned, I'm using Obliterate, where critical hits are going to increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Next, my friends, we have the holster, the knee pads, the gloves, and the backpack. Those are the 4 pieces of the Negotiator's gear set. We're running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 15% crit hit chance, 3 pieces 20% crit hit damage, 4 pieces hostile negotiations. Critical hits mark enemies for 20 seconds, up to 3 marks total. When you critically hit a marked enemy, all other marked enemies take 60% of the damage dealt. Not only that, whenever a marked enemy dies, you're going to gain 2% crit hit damage, stacking up to 20 times or until the combat ends. Next, we have the knee pads, gloves, and backpack. Those are the 3 remaining pieces of Negotiators. And one thing you'll notice is on every single piece of gear, I'm trying to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage everywhere I can. Last but not least, when it comes to the backpack, because we are wearing the Negotiator bag, we do have access to the talent critical measures. This is one of the best talents when it comes to a gear set backpack, because with that talent, it's going to increase hostile negotiations damage to additional marked enemies from 60% to 112%. And obviously that is a huge difference in regard to the amount of damage you're going to be putting out. Now, as far as my skills are concerned, I'm using the combination of the Booster Hive as well as the Fixer Drone. That's what I'm using for this version of the build. And when we look at the numbers, you can see I'm sitting at 49% crit hit chance and 135.1 crit hit damage. I'd also like to mention, those numbers are going to be dependent on not only the gear you have equipped, but having a Shade Watch of level 1000. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know and I will do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. Most of you know by now that one of my favorite aspects about putting these build videos together is the family that we have here at the channel, so if you happen to have any tips or tricks you want to pass along to new and returning players, feel free to leave them in the comments section down below. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage and commentary. As always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone. All right, let me ask you a question. Do you have certain days, if you make coffee at home for yourself, do you have certain days where the coffee is so much better than the day before than you have it the next day and it just sucks and you don't do anything different, but it's different, right? Anyone else struggle with that, or is it just me? Anyway, you will notice that in the gameplay footage, I do not have any global modifiers turned on, and the reason for that is because I want to make sure whenever you see this video, you know this is a build that can still get the job done, regardless of any events that may be going on. And as I leave you with the gameplay footage, you do me a favor and let me know in the comments section what other builds would you like to see me highlight here at the channel, and I will do my best to get those to you as quick as I can. That's all I got for this one, my friends. Thank you once again for everything, and I will see you in the next one.
Medical assistance needed. Detected. Nearby location guarded by hostiles. Hostile supply convoy detected.
Damn it! This is some heavy fire.
Heavily armored hostile detected. Hostile detected.